Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and this is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. As always, we appreciate you tuning in here on the Shadow Nose Network. We got a variety of hot topics to talk about this evening, and first up, Daredevil Reborn, because apparently Matt Murdock hasn't suffered enough, and Marvel just loves chucking him off of rooftops. We love seeing it. Plus, Punisher with an axe in the trailer, the teaser. I'm all for it. And next, Diamond Distributors is going out of business, which was shocking news until you remember that ordering comics from them felt like internet dial-up in 2025. Don't worry, we've got all the latest on movie leaks, overpriced collectibles, and the inevitable news that your favorite franchise is going to get rebooted again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. All right. Thanks for joining. Before we go any further, please click the subscribe button. Drop a like, comment in the channel. Thanks for being with us this evening. Mr. Storm, how are you this fine Friday evening?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Doing pretty good. How's everybody else doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Dr. Brantley, are you with us this evening?
Yes, sir. Doing good.
Love it. The man without fear. That is absolutely correct. And, well, the triumphant return to PPI, none other than Chet Maddox. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm good now that I'm in the world of Pixel, Plastic, and Ink, because it has been a while. It's been a while, but I'm excited, sir. Hopefully everyone here has been well. So, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing spectacular, man. I'm fired up about tonight's topics because there has not been a lot that has gotten me at the edge of my seat when it comes to the MCU. But I can assure you, Daredevil Reborn trailer, the teaser definitely did. Now, we heard the rumors. This is Disney Plus's most violent TV series. And, well, it certainly feels that way, and I love that we got a sneak peek of Punisher and the intro with Kingpin. So let's get started. Let's jump into it, gentlemen. What did you think about the Reborn teaser that came out this past week?
It was awesome. I mean, violence. You got Kingpin back as the mayor. What
Yeah.
more could you ask
Oh
for?
man,
You know?
yes.
It's gonna
So
be good.
What, Dr. Brentley, what did you think? Okay, so I'm very critical on the way trailers are cut. Do I think I could do a better job? I'm not saying I can. However, I am curious to hear you specifically, and then Mr. Storm next. But you, because I know we always joke about how you've like edited every freaking trailer we've seen in like the 90s. How did you feel that they did editing this trailer?
I thought it was great just because it actually got you excited, at least me, for the thing that they're promoting. That is their job. Number one, stop, right? It's like get you excited for this thing that's going to be out in a couple of weeks or a couple months. And that to me did its job because, yes, they're talking about how violent it is, and they showed us breaking some bones. It's like, okay, that's not something that you see Captain America doing. Spider-Man doesn't go around doing that, hurting people like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what Dr. Brenton was saying. I think they did a fantastic job of actually setting the tone. And when they do that, it actually gets us more hyped because, we were expecting, I think, with the Echo series, they said, well, Daredevil's going to come in, it's going to be a very violent scene. And I think the costume he was wearing kind of knocked off a little bit of legitimacy of that happening.
Yeah.
We see in this trailer from the minute that they're sitting down at that table, you can feel the intensity, the way it shot. It kind of almost was reminiscent when Michael Mann had Al Pacino
yeah.
and Robert De Niro sitting in Heat in the cafe. It was the same almost kind of point where you two adversaries are sitting there, and look, when you have two good actors, people that are passionate about the project, and I don't know what they were doing the first time that they had to scrap it, but thank God somebody over at Marvel said this is not the ticket, and they actually went back to the drawing board because I don't even want to see what that first series was like because the tone and everything fit this one. So I can't wait. It's one of those things that if this series is not good, I will absolutely be disappointed.
And one thing I do have to say is I love the sticks. What do you call them? That he's using, throws them, and they come back to him all the time. In the comics, that looks kind of ridiculous, and you wonder, well, how is that going to actually work in the real world? But they make it look good, look just like the comics, and I believe it. So that kind of stuff is hard to do where, you take something ridiculous,
Yeah.
but if you do it correctly and authentically, it looks amazing.
Yeah. And look, we talked about this before, but make no mistake about it. Vincent D'Onofrio is a big reason why there's excitement. I mean, he represents the persona of Kingpin as we like I love the mayor. I love the shot of like him on the big screens, and I love the diner scene. And look, an appearance, White Tiger, which is interesting. So
That was
I'm
that was an interesting move, man.
yeah, so we'll see how that plays out, but that's a character we really haven't seen. So, and then obviously John Bernthal and Punisher returning, which we knew that was going to happen.
What
But
we
he looks
also
really fucked up in the head, like he's going to kill somebody, which that is
Yeah.
100% like I want my Punisher.
Yeah.
So it's great.
There was also this thing that was brought up, but a lot of the original cast. So like, I'm forgetting, I'm spacing on the names, but basically, like, you remember the two lawyers, like Fergie or whatever.
Foggy.
Those, yeah, Foggy. Those two characters were not supposed to come back.
Yeah.
And then there was talks about not bringing Punisher back and all this other stuff. And it's like Disney Plus was like, all right, so you don't think we'll bring them back? You don't think we're going to be violent? You don't think we're going to have blood? You don't think we're going to try to get a rated R, unrated series? So here's everything that you could watch, but you actually can't show on YouTube because they don't like fractures. And then everyone was just kind of like, not sure what the fuck I watched, but that has never been on Disney Plus. And it's like, that trailer is what I hoped that Superman trailer would have done for me watching it with James Gunn, because that one was like everything that we have talked about over the past few years in terms of just like what makes a good like trailer, and then talking about how it's crazy that Netflix did Disney IPs better than Disney has, and then now they're just like, well, fuck it, like let's go see if we can figure out who these people were at Netflix and just start there. Really, really just kind of an amazing shot. So
Yeah.
Well,
No.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'll definitely agree with what Chet's saying. It's like, look, I think the acquisition that when Disney purchased Hulu, it was a game changer for them. Because again, initially when we had Disney Plus, it was family friendly, and Hulu's going to be for some of the darker stuff. And there was some gems over there. If you've ever seen Hit Monkey, and you're like, this is a great animated series, it should actually be on Disney Plus, even though it's R rated. The opportunity of having that character there, with all the street level characters, not having them on Disney Plus knocks out the legitimacy of what Marvel technically is. Because whether you're watching something that's family friendly, or there's an age bracket when you're watching Daredevil and Punisher, and same thing in the comics as well. And when they introduce Ghost Rider and these characters, there's mature themes that you're not going to get for the Avengers. So I think it's incredibly intelligent for them to just say, look, you police your children. The app is there. And if they catch something there, that's your fault. But we're going to put the stuff out there and let everyone see the entire Marvel universe as a whole. So I think that's very good.
Yep.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that they've had in years is an R-rated Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So they're like, okay, well, we can't just brush this off. This is where a lot of our money is going to be made, probably at least half, if not more, because guys like us want to see this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't make a PG or PG-13 version of Daredevil like where it takes place, the villains, Hell's Kitchen, the Bronx, like like this is like the inner city, the darkness, Punisher, like Kingpin, the most villainous. Like, there's no way you would be able to do it. The reason why it worked so well in Netflix before Disney's acquisition, like if they weren't going to say and embrace this rated R version, they might as well just said, like, we're not bringing this character back. So
yeah,
I'm excited about it. I'm also excited about the rumors we've talked about in previous episodes of Pixels, Plastic and Ink, where there's a rumor that Daredevil's going to play Charlie Cox, going to be featured throughout the next several films or series, which tells me there's an investment that we've got. Deadpool's kind of a violent character, Daredevil's kind of a violent character. Will we see Punisher in the MCU sagas? Like, I'm all for it. We want it. Give the fans what they want. But that trailer was off the hook, man. And like, I didn't know what to expect. I'd hoped they would tease a little bit about the violence.
Yeah.
It delivered. It delivered for sure. So
yeah.
Looking forward to it. In other news, Diamond Distributors. So for those of you who may not or be familiar with Diamond Distributors, they have ruled the comic industry for many years, and this Pixels, Plastic and Ink crew involved in the comic film industry comic book publishing. So we're well versed in Diamond Distributors, from the Marvel Select figures to statues to comic books. This was the one-stop shop, the Holy Bible, for lack of better terms, in comic books. It was when you went to your comic book shop, you would need to grab this in order for you to place your orders. If you were a independent or a major publisher, how important you were to appear to a massive audience of folks that wanted your book, marketing opportunities. Dr. Brentley, Mr. Storm, I could recall, like, when we were thinking about names of our companies, we were like, hey, we should call it with an A, because it was the first you would see when you opened up previews, versus don't ever call it like Zigzag Comics, because no one will ever see it. And now we're kind of at the end, bankruptcy, unfortunately. And I know I joked at the opening segment, but, failure of the comic book industry recently and getting more eyes on that and everything switching to digital definitely hasn't helped the cause. But I know you all have some takes on what has happened over time. So I will pass it to all of you, but pretty historic moment here to see this massive empire in the comic book industry has fallen.
Yeah, well, I think Crooked Smile has hit that right on the head. They ruled because they were the only choice at one time. I think, and we've had this talk behind the scenes, and we were always debating on how far scorched earth should we get. Look, Diamond's not coming back. I don't care if you look at how much money they owe, especially to the toy company, they're not coming back. There's no profitable way, because what are they going to tell people? Well, we're going to, get back the $30 million that we owe due to, comics. That's not happening. I was looking at, there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of toy companies they owe a bunch of money to. They're not coming back. At one point, they acted like a monopoly. And I was seeing something on Larry Stroman's Facebook page, which he mentioned. At one time, they were saying if you didn't sell this amount of books, you can't be in previews. And they held that up. It was like, oh no, it's
Yeah.
exclusive club that you can get into and no one else can get into. And they treated you like dirt when you wanted to. And I remember we've had dealings with them in the past tense of the days. And it's not a pleasant experience. Now, when the situation started changing in the industry and everyone stopped making them exclusive, and they made that mistake during the pandemic and Lunar popped up out of nowhere, that's when their attitude started changing, and they had a completely different way of how they treated the consumers. Then it was, oh, it didn't matter how many books you sold. If you were a smaller company, you got the main line because the Images and the Marvels and the DCs and the Dark Horses had left you. And they had all jumped ship to either Lunar or Penguin Random House. Look, no one's talking about this scenario that Penguin Random House is an absolutely throat-cutting industry that has popped up overnight. They stole Diamond's business and has done it better than Diamond could, because the Joffreys didn't. And I've sat on a black panel with a couple of Joffreys at the time, so I've seen them. They acted with an air of arrogance, and that era is over. And for people saying, I look at Scott Simpson saying, hey, who's going to replace Diamond? Lunar's doing it right now. Penguin Random House is doing it right now. Like, basically, if you're a small comic book company, you're not using, you're using Diamond because Penguin Random House doesn't want to touch you. Lunar's not distributing your books. So it's the shame is that a lot of these smaller companies are going. And I'll say this one last thing to be quick, not take up everyone else's time. It's Diamond ending is a good thing for one thing, because the industry got oversaturated with a lot of these smaller books that are not up to par to some of the bigger books. Now, there's some people out there that's busting their behinds and doing great small runs of books, and it's turning out real good. But we're getting a lot of crap that's in the industry. And what happens is when you overinflate the market with anybody can do anything. You got guys on Indiegogo and Kickstarter and any other situation believing that they can do comics. When you oversaturate something, then it's not as valuable. So now with Diamond ending, that means that a lot of these smaller companies that couldn't get into the Penguin Random House or Lunar, they're going to go the way. And I think that may help the industry because there's not going to be so much crap going over. And Darth Moocher says this, quality over quantity, indeed. And I believe that. Set my piece. I'll let the rest of you gentlemen bitch about this.
Well, I saw people talking about like DC is to blame for Diamond going bankrupt, and I'm like, no, DC didn't make Diamond stop distributing during the pandemic. They should have figured out a way to continue doing some sort of a business model instead of just, hey, we're out. See you guys next year. Also, wasn't DC that started shipping books late. And if you have a business model where everyone goes in on a Wednesday to see the new things and to buy it, and then it's not there, well, they're going to have to look somewhere else to buy it, whether it's online or whatever, but it's going to kill your local comic book shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chet.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I agree. I think that there's just dealing with, we had like Crooked Smile said that there was I believe it was the worst customer service and sales department. Even in like my short time dealing with them and trying to figure out when I could go pick up boxes that they didn't ship properly, or like trying to figure out why we're not getting things on time. And a lot of my experience with Diamond Distributors was around like when they were also distributing, I believe they were distributing Magic cards at the time, or trying to push those out. But the comic stores that I was at, like, nobody ever said anything good about Diamond, and it was stated earlier on where they did rule because they were the only choice at the time. And that's where I think, Mr. Storm had said where the arrogance is what kind of got in front of them, and it was only a matter of time. And a lot of people don't know this, but Penguin is, like Storm said, very cutthroat. And so which is also good for the comic industry too, because a lot of these newer publishers are going to be pushing to want to be able to like release things that are worth releasing, instead of wasting their time on well, this is what people are comfortable reading, so we're gonna release this shit. No, they're going to be able to release it at a faster, better quality, everything like that. And so I think as we move into the era of Diamond Distributors kind of going out, I'm curious to see what happens to the quality of the books actually being put out, because I just, the customer service on Diamond sucked. It's like,
Now, here's one thing too, in case like everybody's having a point where it's like, why are these guys talking about it? Because every part of it, Chet and myself, we both worked at comic book stores. In my late teens, I worked at a comic book store, one of the biggest that was in Los Angeles. And I've seen the distribution. I was there during the death of Superman when Diamond in the industry is at the top. So we've worked in the retail area. We've worked behind the scenes. We produced our own independent books. We've had to deal with Diamond and other distributors over the years. I remember when there was two actual distributors, just wasn't Diamond. It was East Coast version. And then Marvel bought it, and, they made a mistake on the situation. So when it's like, are these guys qualified enough to talk about the situation? Every part of this industry, when we started in comics, you were cutting out word balloons and pasting it on the stuff. We have worked in the business, so we've had to deal with Diamond. And I know a lot of industry professionals, and every one of them this week was absolutely scared. The same kind of fear I saw during the pandemic reeled its ugly head, because people are like, well, what is going to do now? Well, you had a solution years ago when Comicology, but I'll use this term, the jackasses that's running the industry right now, that are all at the top of these companies, they pushed away from actually doing this digital books,
Yep.
And when you throw out stupid numbers over at DC, like, hey, we got the #1 book of 2024, it sold 400,000. Yet Dogman, which is a book I've never read, but guess what? All my nieces and nephews that are under the age of 10 have read them, because those are getting distributed in schools. The one aspect comes to say is that the reason why Diamond failed is because the reason why the industry as a whole is failing is that you've got archaic beliefs that are still being done since the 1950s, that you haven't modernized the industry. Anybody that tries to come in and modernize it is seen with absolute fire, and they try to push them out. But Comixology would have solved this fear that happened today, or another digital brand. I don't know why they're not doing it, because Shogun Jump over in Japan's doing it.
Yep.
So we've got to change certain ways. It's like everyone's scared and everything else. You kind of did this to yourself. So now how are you going to get out of it and stop having the same knuckleheads that ran the industry in the 80s and 90s that screwed it up running these companies now? You need to start looking at who's the head of Penguin Random House and start poaching these guys, and actually get some people from the tech industry and start changing how comics are distributing, because we may be looking at like maybe 10 years and this industry might be gone if there's not some significant changes done now.
You know what? And spot on, Mr. Storm. I think the scary part too, that could disrupt a lot more than just the comic industry, is that when you file Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a lot of companies will come out of it okay, right? And rebuild and actually stronger to be able to continue on. But if Diamond cannot exit Chapter 11 and moves to Chapter 7, then they have to liquidate their assets, which means that some of the books that they have will go back to like the publishers, but a lot of that stuff will be what they'll wind up in these discount stores, online things, Ollie's, TJ Maxx, which will completely wipe out bookstores and comic shops. Because if you could get a graphic novel or a series of comic books for super low, it's kind of what happened with the action figure industry for a good 12, 18 months. You could go to Ollie's and get a figure for $8, a Marvel Legends, because you know the demand issues and all this, and we could talk about that later. But this could happen with retailers, which would completely suck, because then you're eliminating more mom and pops. You're even hurting the big players too. So to your point, like, will they survive? Will they exit out of Chapter 11? I don't know, but that's something to be keep an eye out. I mean, it's good for people that want discount books and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not healthy for the overall market. So I think that's one thing. And then I think too, like, and I don't know how credible it is, but I do know that there's been a lot of talk about like what happens with the independents, because like how do you get that? Like, I don't know, is DC gonna embrace and welcome? No, right? Like, how do you get your book put like out there in the like? That's another opportunity. And regardless of what we've said about Diamond Distributors, at least there was an opportunity or a forum to get a lot of the independent stuff out there. And now it's one less resource. And so does this mean that the DCs and the Images and the Marvels of the world have this firm grasp on the industry, and the smaller ones are like, how the hell am I going to get this book distributed? So it's a domino effect, unfortunately. Regardless of what you think about Diamond Distributors, it's a massive blow to the industry. There's no question about it.
Yeah, but you run it on. There's a couple of things of like, again, since I'm an old school dude and everything, I was watching PBS News, so that goes to tell you how old I am. And they did an expose on how Barnes and Noble made a comeback. And guess who's in Barnes and Noble? Penguin Random House is in Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
Barnes and Noble is flourishing. This is the first time they are opening up more stores and closing more stores in the United States. So what happened was that the Barnes and Noble and the book industry had a bad situation where they were basically being run out of the industry, and then they figured out a way to do it. Now a lot of things happened because they moved. A lot of stuff moves to social media, TikTok, a lot of these other things that helped them. A lot of these small independent guys aren't like putting their work in other platforms. They're just relying on something that's happened, and they never push the social media. I know there's some creators that do well on Kickstarter. They do well on Indiegogo, and there's some different distribution factors than other than that, but they made themselves available to that. If you don't adapt, you're going to die. And that's what's happening in the industry right now. We're not seeing enough adapting. But again, how did Barnes & Noble come back? The one thing Dr. Brittley and I say, and this, again, we were probably going to get booed out of every convention we go to from this point on, and I don't care anymore. But when the industry needs to have a unisex look. When you go to GameStop, GameStop looks like GameStop. You can go to GameStop in Wyoming or in Alaska or wherever the hell GameStop is, and it looks like GameStop. When you go to a comic book store here in the United States, it looks like somebody's garage or some unprofessional place that you don't want to be in. Most of the people behind the counters are bad mouthing the products, and it's one of those situations where the industry hasn't grown up. Like if you look at Penguin Random House, they're in Target, they're in Walmart. Every Target and Walmart looks the same. It's a welcoming environment. The comic book stores are going to 100% need to make a change in the ways where there has to be a code of conduct to how they look. And they need to start. Maybe there's Marvel. I heard years ago Marvel tried to do their own chain. Well, they're going to need something like that, or they're going to need to start taking their asses into Barnes and Noble and seeing if they can actually start making waves in there. But the comic book store is hurting the industry because the comic book store does not look professional. We have way too many examples of them looking like crap, and very small examples of saying, "Well, that's a top-notch store." We were in Los Angeles with Meltdown. Meltdown looked like a GameStop. You know, and they screwed up their business model. But when you walked in that store, it was like you walked into a retail store. There's other stores in LA and over here that we won't mention because we're not going to do that. But Dr. Brentley has said this and used the point. He walked in the store and there's cats all over the store. It smelled like cat piss. Do you really want to actually drop your children off to send them there?
I mean,
That's all I'm saying.
I love the smell of cat piss when I'm reading my graphic novels.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I know where you got this.
yeah, especially when I'm reading like, you know, Black Panther and Black Cat and, you know, all things cat related, Thundercats. We can go on and on.
Now, see, I think there is a huge opportunity here for some independent group to get together, and they can take all these smaller comics that aren't up to the level that Penguin Random House is going to distribute. And then you just get all of these people. Unfortunately, a lot of them are the ones that you don't like, Mr. Storm, that are not of the best quality.
I didn't say I didn't like. I just said that there needs to be a standard and mandate when you have crap that you're putting out is hurting also. Like every time there's a crappy independent guy, he's fighting at the same space that Absolute Batman's trying to fight at. That's all I'm saying.
Well, he's going to lose 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
But that's just what it is. You put out something and the market will decide if it goes or not. But, you know, someone can put together another distribution company that gets all the small people and figure out a way to do it correctly. And, you know, hopefully someone that went to business school and knows how to make a profit on a business. The last thing I'll say is that this all might be karma for Diamond probably destroying about 3% of the Amazon rainforest with all of their preview books.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to bring up something, and it was we were talking about comicsology, and I think the comic book industry, for a brief period of time, had a synergy, and I hate that word, but I'm going to use it because it's the only word I can fucking think of. But they had a synergy where you had the comic books that you liked, and then on top of that, when you knew what you liked, you were putting it in Comixology, and then Comixology, before Amazon owned it, would recommend books based on the books you had in your list. So then that way you could go through and say like, oh, I want to try this, I want to try that. And then I remember I had a massive Comixology library because it was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to like this book. And I would buy like issue 1 on Comixology and I would read it and I'd be like, yes, cool. And Comixology started to get me because it was right when I was starting to get heavier into comics. And it just started opening my eyes up to like everything. Like I learned about Vertigo. I learned about, Image. I learned about, I knew about DC and Marvel, but then you learn about IDW. And I was learning about all these other Boom Studios, everything kind of coming out. And it was all because Comixology was like referencing that. But the problem is that, Amazon bought it just so they could like bury that shit. And then they buried it. And then nobody has the ability to do it, and they were like, this is cool, and it was awesome. And then they were I remember they were boasting that shit at San Diego Comic-Con with the Comixology book, talking about like, oh, Amazon owns it, it's got this like, we have this wide array of like comics available now. And it's like that, as soon as that shit hit Amazon, the selection got worse. You couldn't see recommendations anymore, and I got 950,000 emails telling me I had to like change my library because I was going to lose everything I fucking bought. And so, that's what the comic book industry needs now. And I know that there's kind of like this idea we're talking about unison, which is like make a comic book store ideal layout and just fucking have everybody use that so people get pumped to want to come into it. And maybe it is something like Darth Moocher was saying, where we open up I don't know who Shadow is, but we'll open up theirs and we'll open up KS Collectibles and start like, but yeah, we could, I like, here's the thing. Everybody that's at least in this group, and I know the Starlight guys as well, when we say, yeah, we're going to joke about it, there's usually like 3 to 6 months down the road, you guys hear about an announcement is all I'm going to say. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it. I think the downfall of Comixology really did start to hurt the experience of finding new comics, because my final word, as Dr. Brintley says, the number one thing that I hate about comic book stores is the fact that when you go into a comic book store, unless you've been there forever, people are not personable, and they just make you feel like shit if you don't know what you're talking about comics, or if you go in and you're like a new comic person and you mistakenly mention a DC character that you thought was in a Marvel book, and it's like the end of the world. And then it's like, number one, as somebody who could buy your whole fucking rack of comics, I'm going to take off now. I don't want them. And number two, like if I send a parent in there, I don't trust sending a parent that's never bought comics to go to a comic book store, because nobody is going to fucking talk to them like they're interested in taking their money. It's all like these people open up these comic book stores and then they act like the good old boys club, and they don't fucking make any money because they're too busy trying to like be buddy pals, like sharing Gatorade stories and talking about fucking chicks that never go into their store, while people don't buy the fucking comics. And then they wonder why they're like going negative every goddamn month. And it's like, well, because you don't do shit to push comics. You just don't do it. If you did it, you wouldn't have the fucking problem, but you don't. You make it smell like cat piss. I don't know where to find my books. Your backlog isn't a backlog. Your backlog is more expensive than the current comics. And then the current comics you have, you don't want to buy a bunch of them because you're like, people don't buy comics. Well, so your ass isn't doing anything to promote it. So whose fucking problem is it really? And so now you have Diamond Distributors, who was okay with mediocrity, who now gets to understand that mediocrity drives you to bankruptcy. Good luck selling your shit. Then you have Penguin and a bunch of other people that are like, well, we're not okay with mediocrity. So if your shit isn't in alignment and you're not meeting dates and you're not putting out what you need to put out, guess what? We're not gonna distribute your shit. And I do think that eventually one of the players that's coming into it, there's a high probability it could be Penguin, but I think that they'll see that there is that market that Diamond does have with like independence. And all they have to do is just like subname their shit and put it out as like independent publishing, and it's solved. And they have the ability to do it. So the comic industry sucks because the comic book store owners don't give a fuck, and they need to start caring about that shit, because that is the heart and soul. And there's even comic book stores in LA that are right across from Sony Studios, right across from Fox, where people go in, and these assholes don't talk about shit that needs to be made into movies. They just go, what can I help you with? Are you looking for like Superman? Or, if you're Sony, obviously you got to look for fucking Spider-Man. It's like, no, try to get them more interested into like other characters so we can start seeing other movies, but they don't do that. So I'm going to stop there, but I got a lot to talk about that shit. So
again, we apologize to the industry. We will no longer be allowed at conventions. We understand that. Yeah. We understand it. Like when you see us, you're setting our cars on fire and things like that.
They're all gonna. Let me be clear though. We may not be invited, but once PixelCon launches, you guys will all want to come to our convention anyways. So you could just it doesn't matter.
Crazy.
Like Mr. Storm was saying, I think a great way to do it is like a Toys R Us, where you figure out what's the best traffic, right? It's like, okay, we have to put all of our new stuff at the back, or we put all the old stuff at the back. So you have to go buy all the new stuff to get there. Or, all the toys are in the back, or something's over here. You have to go past this display before you can go into the store. figure out what's appealing and
Yeah.
what makes people purchase stuff, because that's what you're in business to do.
When I go pick up my books or I want to read about books and
I
stuff,
think the business
I
term is analytics.
yeah, yeah, I don't want to have to like maybe I'm dating myself here, but I don't want to have to navigate through like 100 different tables playing like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh to pick up a Wolverine.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
dating
mean?
yourself
Like
to what, like last weekend? That shit still existed, like fucking
no,
every local comic game store, dude. Like,
uh
yeah,
so
I'm here to pick up my comics. I'm just gonna rub
yeah.
sweat with this fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So look, I get the deck building games. Hey, we're into them too, but come on, man. I just want to get my
take a
books
shower.
and all that stuff. So, well, super passionate topic. And before we jump into the SKN news, one additional thing, the latest Star Wars TV series, the Skeleton Crew, has wrapped. For all of your Star Wars content and needs, and you go deep dive into all the Star Wars lore, and probably including this TV series, check out the Sarlacc Digest, because we're surface level, but we did want to talk about that because interesting enough, it was one of the highly reviewed TV series. I actually really enjoyed it, but less watched Star Wars TV series, which brings up the question of, one, do we think this will get a sequel? Does it deserve a sequel? And then two is like, for how well it was, this like nod to Amblin Entertainment, and it was Goonie-esque and Back to the Future and all these cool things from almost Stranger Things elements, that people weren't watching it. And matter of fact, there was not a lot of people that I knew in my life, in my social circle, that were watching it, which is surprising because in a lot of other ways, people were talking about Star Wars and Mandalorian and things of that nature. So, gentlemen, Skeleton Crew, your final thoughts as the series concluded, and then also, what's the issue there? Highly rated, one of the best Star Wars TV series, yet it didn't seem like a bunch of people were watching it.
Well,
I
not it.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. I loved every episode. I was looking forward to Tuesday nights, and it has been a while. It's been like since Mandalorian since I was getting that. So it was very well done, very funny, an entry level thing into Star Wars as well. But I think what turned people off was they got burned the last couple of times they had some Star Wars series that weren't as well done. And, when you look at it, telling the story, right? They start in this suburban kind of a setting, and it doesn't look like your classic Star Wars. So that might have just turned people off from thinking like, oh, what the hell's this? That doesn't look like Tatooine. That doesn't look like Luke Skywalker. It looks like some regular kids in, Southern California town. That's the only thing I can think of, because it's great. Watch it.
Yeah.
I I was thinking about this, and I was gonna save it till I popped on the Sorlight show on Wednesday, but we're not gonna do that.
Sorry, Mooch.
No, the main thing that I think hurt this situation wasn't. I don't think it was just also the acolyte. Look, when the Mandalorian came out, we were talking about this. It came out in October. They put this during December. Now, while Hallmark movies and a bunch of other things do well in December, I don't think that this was the proper time to bring it out. I think an October release would have been smarter to catch on. And I think they thought that everybody was going to be sitting at home and family and friends were going to watch Star Wars and not watch the million Christmas stuff that was going on. And I think that it was just marketing wise, I thought they did a good job. I think the show's highly enjoyable. It's not made for people of our age, but if you like any of that classic stuff, it works well. It's a good story for any of the younger Star Wars fans to get involved. But I just think it's like it was just bad timing that they put the show out, and then they also put it out behind a show that was equally not reviewed well, and I don't know if that's set into the minds of people, but it's worth the watch. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it now because it is very enjoyable. It's one of those shows you can put every member of the household from 8 to 80 and everybody can watch it and enjoy it.
Yep. Look, now here, Ahsoka, we talked about last episode. Balin Skull, one of the best characters to come to the screen, and people are fascinated about. I thought Jude Law's character was freaking fascinating too.
Yeah.
Like I hope it continues on. Like, I want to know more. So they hit it on the head. Another fascinating character, villainous, but there's likability there. There's a good side. There's a bad side. Someone at Star Wars is writing some interesting characters. That's what I would say. Really love the series. Lighthearted, good action. Like you said, Dr. Brantley, if you're not really into Star Wars, you don't have to be in this series. It doesn't go too deep into the lore. But I do want to tune in to get a little bit more insight into the future and the stories of, the Mint and all that stuff, because I think it's so fascinating how that would tie into the overall universe, the Star Wars galaxy. But I'm sad to see it end. I was like, damn, that's it. But I hope they make a sequel. I would love to see a sequel. I know there wasn't plans for it. I'm a little concerned with the lower viewership they won't renew, regardless of how well it was received. But, they're all expensive shows, but hopefully they do.
The same thing happened with Andor. And it was very low watched at first. But because it had people talking about it and saying, like, actually, you should check it out, it did pick up. So hopefully this will get people talking about it and saying you should really watch it. Don't believe everything that, you've seen. So
the Star Wars historian, Darth Moocher, and sort of like that says, yeah, it was a safe series and it was really enjoyable. It was a very smart series that they did. And then Crooked Smiles is broken in, where it says lack of merchandise aimed at kids also hinders on the growth of the audience as well. And I think that they did a good job on some of the Black series figures and some of the vintage, but like, are younger individuals buying that? So it's kind of like I know Rat and I always talk about the Young Jedi Chronicles, and I've watched it because I have younger family members in my house. It's very enjoyable. It's even as an adult, you can sit there and be like, okay, it's like it's made for the little guys. I can sit here and watch it with them. It's just enough lore, and they do make merchandise just for them. Yeah. So this is something where I don't know if they didn't have with the Skeleton Crew like their Grogu. They didn't have this phenomena character that appealed to like a lot of young people at heart.
Neil.
And I think that, I think he's a human counterpart.
Yeah, I don't think.
But they needed, they needed something that would have been a phenomena to. And actually, the worst part is, like, this is a series where Grogu probably would have done extremely well in it because it would have matched that kind of scenario. So I think that's why, because the Mandalorian, no one was talking about the Mandalorian as much. More than at the point we were like Baby Yoda, then he became Grogu. We found out his name, and that pushed it through. I think they needed a better mascot for the Skeleton Crew that would have actually helped them along the way. But it is a good series,
and that's actually something a cameo that would have made sense. These kids, and they're in this pirate adventure, and in one episode they come up against the Mandalorian and Grogu. Have them come in and help them out for, some bit. That would have actually made sense, and it goes in the timeline, but,
Look, the best episode of the Book of Fett was the Mandalorian episode.
Look, I know everyone's infatuated with Grogu, but SM-33, the damn droid with a pirate, a pirate droid. Best character. If there's one, look, again, I don't buy Star Wars figures that often. Maybe a couple of Hot Toys. SM-33's getting purchased because, man, he made that show. Chat Maddox, last thoughts before we jump into SKN news.
Yeah, you guys said it all. I think
let's go to SK news.
SKN News. Let's roll it.
Before we jump into that, if you haven't done two things for us, then you need to do two things. One, subscribe right now. Hit that key. The second thing you need to do is put a like in, because guess what? When you like these videos, it tells the algorithm that that's stuff you need to definitely see. And from there, let's jump into SKN News. From your world to our world to your living room, all the news in pop culture. It is SKN News time. We've got some things going this week, man. Got some really good stuff, but guess what we had? We had two actual Hasbro events in the same week. So they broke pockets in the beginning of the week, and they started breaking pockets at the end of the week and everything. So they had a Transformer live stream that was on Tuesday. And this morning, if you woke up like we all did, they had a Marvel Legends one. And let me tell you something, the Marvel Legends one did not disappoint. Got some great figures that they introduced. They've got Rom the Space Knight. Whether you like Rom or not, they got Rom. They had the Dark Avenger Wolverine. Very, very good looking figure. They also had Adam Warlock, the Ultimate Iron Man from the Ultimate Iron Man 1. Miles Morales, that's Dr. Brentley said was one of the best looking posable characters he's seen in a long time. Banshee and Jean Grey. So when we let's go through some of these right here. Great look, Rom the Space Knight. I was never a big Rom the Space Knight fan. I do remember him from the 80s of the Marvel series, but it's a nice looking figure. I've just never understood the character. But that Wolverine, and again, we said this last week where we were laughing about the Nemesis line where they had the Extreme Wolverine. Where in the world do they keep coming up with all these different variations of Wolverine? Because somehow it seems like Wolverine can continue to keep going. From there, we've got Adam Warlock, which I've seen that character several times. He looks nicer in this iteration of him. And then this is one of personally Dr. Brentley's favorite one, the Invincible Iron Man, because he said that looked like right on the cover. They did a great job on that right on the cover. And there is Miles Morales in all his superposability way. And I will say they are making these Spider-Man action figures extremely posable that look like comic book covers. And a lot of those things was credit Todd McFarlane was stretching Spider-Man like that. Banshee.
I like this Banshee.
Looks great. Face looks great. Comes with a different couple of hands, couple of face planes.
Yeah.
But this looks like classic right out of the comic book he came.
Yep.
And from there, they also did this new version of Jean Grey, which was pretty cool. It comes with a couple alternate heads and everything. Now, here's the thing about the Jean Grey. It's going to piss everybody off. It's a Target exclusive. We all know how that's going lately. It has not worked out for a lot of people, especially Mr. Maddox. Yeah. And then they've got Electro, where from Spider-Man No Way Home, where look, even if he came back in the series, and this is the best looking version of Electro. I don't care what they did on the screen. They did a great job on this character. He almost makes you wish that they would have started with those characters. So, gentlemen, the whole thing is now none of these characters actually came up for pre-order today. It's going to be on a separate day down the line. But is there any characters drawing your interest that you think you're going to purchase?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're missing a character.
Yeah, we're missing Spider-Man.
We are missing Spider-Man, but we left Spider-Man off because Spider-Man drops on a different day. So that's
well,
that we're gonna have.
That's fine. But look, I'm already mad because I couldn't get fucking Professor X. So now I gotta wait. Now I want this Jean Grey because she goes with Scott Summers in his suit. I want that. Miles Morales, yes. Adam Warlock, strangely, is one that I'm excited about. And I have no clue why, but I saw it and I was like, great. I will say Marvel Legends team is killing it with the card backs on these, though.
Yes.
Like it is. I'm all about the card backs for that. I think it's good. All in all, I think it's pretty good. There's like one or two maybe that I'm not really interested in. Banshee, I'm excited about Banshee because of the colors. I really want him I really want the I don't have the 3-pack yet that had
Mhm.
Banshee in it.
Yeah.
That's one that I've been looking at trying to grab. But yeah, man, I think these are cool, and it's crazy to me that this Spider-Man isn't even as posable as the other Spider-Man that hasn't come out yet. That's just wild to me. I don't know. What do you think, Rad?
Well, the best figure is the one we don't have, which is the Maximum Spider-Man, which is going to
Yeah.
be the definitive Spider-Man, which we had that show. But the reason why I'm excited about it is talk about posability and some of the features you have. Like the biggest issue that Hasbro has been running into is one is like the import figures like SH Figure Arts and Mafex, especially with the Spider-Man line.
Yeah.
Talk about posability is a lot of those the people are paying a little bit more of a premium to get those like really well articulated figures, and it comes with a ton of accessories. So for Spider-Man specifically, there's been like the two most popular Spider-Man figures in terms of like the look and feel has been like the Renew Your Vows 2-pack that just came out a couple of years ago that people are really excited about, and then the other one that just came out was the VHS 2-pack with Vulture. Those are the ones that people are really paying up for. But I love that they're like, okay, we understand that the imports are popular. We get these knockoffs are killing us, like CT Toys you can get on Mercari, or you can get on some of these other different sites. So they not only release a definitive Spider-Man, but they put it in a box that looks like Mafex. So they're or SH Figure Arts. They're like, okay, which is great. Like if you're Hasbro, do it. That's what people love to collect. So I'm excited about that figure particularly. Some of these other figures, like I think it's cool you get a Jamie Foxx figure. Like we haven't seen one. That's pretty neat. Like I think I'll get some of these figures for sure. But I'm more excited about Spider-Man and that Maximum line, what they're gonna do there, which I think would really great. The only issue I always have with Hasbro and Marvel is just like it's all over the damn place. Like sometimes they announce a wave, which is great, and then sometimes they're like, "This is part of this wave, and this part of this wave, and this is that." Like, I wish they would like it be a little bit more like synergy based. Like, we're releasing these 6 figures, and they tie into like the MCU, and then maybe one that's like an additional X-Men 97 or whatever. Like, these figures felt like all over the place, different lines, different eras, different suits. That's my only issue, but overall, like it was really. I think there's some cool figures there. Hasbro's really showing up, really great. And I'll say one last thing. I know we're talking about Hasbro, and I know we sometimes McFarlane, we've got some big question marks. I gotta say, I put my hands on some of the McFarlane Batman vehicles.
Yeah.
He's doing vehicles pretty well. Like I gotta give him credit. The Batman Beyond one just came out.
Yep.
It's pricey. So I know we question the figures and the Marvel statues, but they're showing up, and so I gotta say, like vehicles now. I know Joe's been doing it the best. But watch out, McFarlane's coming to play. Marvel really hasn't done much. And
Also,
then, like all these other ones that we got, the independents that we got Ramen, and now I'm excited about the one that's coming out
for Odd Frog. And
Man,
then loyal subjects with
dude,
masks.
I'm gonna have so many freaking vehicles, but I just got to give a shout out to McFarlane because I know that's been a topic of like I'm not sure about doing the vehicles pretty well.
No, he is, and actually, I ordered that Batman Beyond.
Dude,
the one without the figure. It
doesn't matter. Who cares about the figure? But I think sexy looking.
And if you look in the back, there's several McFarlanes up there. There's the the '89 Batmobile. I know I've heard he's going to do an updated, larger version of the '66 one because I have the '66 one sitting on the shelf, and that one he needed a little upgrade. And I thought if I didn't own all the Kenner ones, I definitely would have purchased the animated series one, and I actually own the Kenner version of the Batman Forever. So those were a couple of key things where it's like, I don't know if I want to double this. But it is begging you to do it though. All right. Well, like I said, from there, let's move on to the next thing on the list. Guess what? Some people talk about, hey, I don't like remakes and everything. Well, unfortunately, somebody must be doing it. But Deadline, which we know is a legitimate news source, is reported that on the shifting strategies of Warner Brothers for the 2025 calendar, outlet reported that the studio seeks to fall back once more on the several proven franchises. No shit. along alongside his filmmaking driven projects. One of such projects was a new Goonies sequel, which Chris Columbus is set to return to pen and treatment, having written the screenplay for the 1985 one. Columbus had previously been reported to have been part of discussions with Donner and executive producer and fellow writer Steven Spielberg. And of course, Lauren Donner is also associated that because, again, unfortunately, we lost in 2021 Richard Donner. So, you know, again, I think it's a brilliant idea. Chris Columbus has, look, if you were in your youth, Chris Columbus actually did a great job of designing characters in the 80s and the 90s. They did a really good job. So I'm glad he's back. I think a little bit of feel. I don't know how they're going to, if it's going to be a direct sequel and they're just going to have the older Goonies do something, or they're going to have Goonies kids or whatever. But Chris Columbus puts me at ease to think that the right person's helming this. What's your thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, it's the right person to do it. You know, he directed the first two Harry Potter movies, so he knows his way around kids' films. He was the original writer, and he probably should direct this as well, since we no longer have Richard Donner. I think he would actually be very good to the, you know, original tone and intent of the first one. But I think it's probably a bad idea to be making this movie in the first place.
Yep.
I have nothing to say. I'm like, you know, come on. like there's nothing about Goonies that could be made as a sequel this far into the future.
It's gonna be tough.
Maybe in like
It is.
91 they could have done a sequel and had all the same kids, you know. But like right now, nah. Shut up. Jane, go do something else. Go do math.
Goonies as parents going on adventure with their kids.
Nope. Don't care.
There was a two-eyed Willie, his brother.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is like Lost when it got really good in season 4, right? Like, oh, let's get into the other half of the plane. Like, shut up. It's so
Yeah.
stupid.
What the hell are we doing?
It's gonna be, you know what it is it's gonna be the Goonies, but they're gonna introduce the multiverse, and it's gonna be at the same time the Goonies existed, so did this one, and it's I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Fucking, I need Baby Ruth now. I'm angry.
Terrible idea. Should never be made.
Never.
All right. Well, pushing from that, one that, you know, look, I thought his debut was okay. I think that Ben Kingsley's performance in that film was probably the best performance. But the character is one of my favorites, Shang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu. Marvel Studios is currently planning to begin production on an untitled Shang-Chi sequel sometime in 2026, in development since late 2021. The Shang-Chi sequel will once believed to be an integral part of the multiverse saga, which, thank you, Jonathan Majors, we know why that's no longer important. However, Shang-Chi may be unceremoniously put out of the spotlight when Marvel Studios pivoted from the person that we will not name, Doctor Doom. So, look, I thought the first film was good. There's certain things that hit and miss. I thought, Aquafina was the thing that really murdered that film and the tone. I don't know why you need a, jokey kind of like sidekick, because I think that kind of knocks it out.
Because you can't have a movie without a sidekick. That's why.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with having a sidekick, but I just think her whole energy and everything just destroyed. This guy's the master of Kung Fu. If you read any of the Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu comics in the day, that whole bit of witticism and everything's not in that. And I think that tone kind of did it. But I did enjoy Ben Kingsley coming back and just disrupting the film in his kind of really perfect way of doing it. So, but it did deserve a sequel. Hopefully, it's kind of like, like Shang-Chi kind of felt like Iron Fist. Like somehow the tones didn't work out for both of those characters, yet both of those characters are equally great characters. It's been around for a very long time. So hopefully they get this right. You guys expecting Shang-Chi 2 to be good, or what's your feelings on it? You guys like the first one?
I did like the first one, and I, in fact, think Aquafina is funny. I like her.
You're the only one.
The well, not the only one. So people are hiring her, but maybe the only one here. Uh, but it was fun. I thought the fighting was pretty cool. Yeah, Ben Kingsley as Trevor was awesome.
Yeah.
Right, and yeah, it was good. Looking forward to what they do with it.
Yeah. Brad?
Yeah, good. I enjoyed the first one. Cool character. I think cool fight sequences. I'm not opposed to it. I'd like to see it carry on. I just don't want it to interfere with like the planning of future MCU, since it's like off to a decent start this year.
Yeah.
Like, don't figure it in just to make a sequel unless it like really ties into the storytelling in the future. And if that's okay, then
Well,
all good.
that's where I'll say the same thing to Dr. Brittany, and that's why the Aquafina buffoonishry that's in that kills it, because, like, can you imagine if, like, you really would have got the Master Kung Fu Shang-Chi, and then you really wouldn't have got a better version of Iron Fist, and then to see him pop in the street levels with, like, Luke Cage or Daredevil, those tones are going to be hard to get those characters within one another, and they are all in the same street level kind of scenario. So I think that their on big screen performances and some of the small ones from the Netflix hurt the street level characters a little bit too.
It worked okay with Ant-Man. I mean, the Ant-Man, the first two movies, not talk about the third one, that doesn't count. But, they were comedies, and they had very funny bits to them, and the character was funny. But then when he was in the Avengers, he still had some of the humor, but also it wasn't as silly. It wasn't trying to be a comedy. He worked in with the bigger group.
Yeah,
Shang-Chi can do that as well because he's going to be part of the new Avengers.
absolutely.
Hmm.
All right. Well, like I said again, we'll be seeing it hopefully hit screens in 2026. We'll see what they got. But in 2025, in the current market right now, we know one thing that's happened because it came on the other day and they kind of hit us with this. Comic-Con again. Yeah, I just Comic-Con International has extended its agreement. Look, they do this every so many years. Everybody else but the Comic-Con organization understands that you cannot grow that event in San Diego, and it has gotten out of hand. But they've announced that they will be there and through 2027. So some palms were greased and money on the table was given, because it's not that it's in a better venue. It's not that they're not over gouging all of the participants to show up at that event. They've outgrown that San Diego Convention Center for about a decade now. And I've never seen a business model ever where you don't grow. You don't look for active growth. You're like, no, we're good to stay in this situation and things like that. More and more, we've been at Comic-Con. I've been going to Comic-Con for almost 25 years now. So I can let you know that we were there in the beginning when it was about comics and it was affordable to go down there. You could get a day down there, spend a little money. Now it's almost like if you're thinking about either you're going to go to Comic-Con or you're going to go to Disney World, but you ain't doing both. So it's just kind of gotten out of hand. I don't want to see it continue where it's at. I think Las Vegas would be a very good environment for it, especially with all the themes and everything that's going on in Las Vegas right now. We've always at Los Angeles, look, at one point they had a bid there and they were talking about giving them, at the time it was named the Staples Center, but now it's called crypto.com. But they were talking about also loaning that to them for their like Hall H scenarios. So again, I don't understand it. What are you guys' feelings on it?
Well, who benefits from it, from staying in San Diego?
San Diego.
Okay. And who makes the decision to keep it in San Diego?
San Diego organization. Most of the people live in San Diego too.
So I don't know. Someone representing the city of San Diego has a conversation with somebody who makes the decision to keep San Diego Comic-Con there, and handshakes are made and other things, and
Look,
that's why we are where we are. I'm not going to false accuse anything, but we all know how the business world operates, and a lot of hotels depend on that money. The city depends on that money every year, and if they were to leave San Diego, it would make a massive strain and economic impact. So the decision makers are not just making the decision because they want to do what's best for San Diego. They are doing it because there's some benefit to make the decision there. And what that is, we don't know, but one can assume.
All I know is that Comic-Con is on the heels of Diamond Distributors.
Yeah.
So you are playing with fire, acting like you know what the fuck people want. You don't. People don't want to be crammed in sardines and have stupid fire people yelling at you to not stand on the wall and don't do this, and you can't go over there, and you can't drink water from the left side because it poisons you from the right side. And like there's so much shit that goes on at Comic-Con. And the reality is that like, yo, you said no more Hall H, and then you just did Hall H. So like now we're at this point where, listen, you got your shit till 2027, but that does not mean that somebody won't come up with something that is more entertaining and has more space and is more true to the culture than San Diego Comic-Con is right now. Now, I love San Diego Comic-Con. I've got a history there. I haven't been as long as everyone else here. I think my first time was officially 2013, maybe 2012. So you guys all have a greater experience in terms of like when it was comics and when you could go around, you could, and it made sense and it wasn't busy as hell. But my thing is, and Crooked Smile said this shit, and I laughed because the reality is like, even in my time of going to Comic-Con, they want to put this in San Diego, but they don't do anything to upkeep it. They just come in and do an overnight cleaning, and then they don't. And so all I'm saying is this: you got till 2027, right? But then if we rewind like 4 years ago, they had till 2024. Then it was 2025. Now it's 2027, and they're on the heels of bankruptcy and potential bankruptcy like Diamond is right now. And Diamond said never happened, right? Comic-Con will say never happened. But what if somebody comes up with a convention that is just that much better? And I'm not talking about LA Comic-Con because they're already outpricing themselves to shut down in a year. I'm talking about like someone that takes the heart and soul of Comic-Con, listens to everybody that's bitching about Comic-Con, and just creates that convention somewhere that has the capacity to be able to do it. That's the problem with Comic-Con. They're not paying attention. They're not. And unfortunately they do have their pockets run deep, and that's an issue, but someone's going to do it better.
It's a cultural thing for the city too, I think, because it's been there its entire existence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say Comic-Con, people automatically think San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And, for them, I understand why they're fighting to keep it, but they should maybe do some things with the infrastructure in the city to make it able to handle bigger crowds. Because if you've gone, it's a nightmare to get there. It's a nightmare once you're there, and it's a nightmare to leave.
Yeah.
So, it's something that it's like if the Rose Parade was not held in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
right. It's
like
like it has to be. What?
Yeah.
You can't take it away. So I think that a lot of people feel like that's San Diego Comic-Con. You can't take it away from San Diego.
Yeah.
But I think it has outgrown the city, unfortunately.
Well, so another point is they made this announcement, right? But if you applied for professional badges, they haven't even gotten back to you yet.
Yeah.
So, like, where's your priority here? Why are you announcing this shit, but you can't? You're gonna release the passes for everybody, but you have all these companies and people that are trying to figure out, did I get pro badges before I have to buy other badges? And it's like you don't give a shit because you're not letting everybody know, when previously you used to let everyone know like months ahead of time, so they didn't have to worry about buying like individual badges. And it's like know your audience. Like nobody right now that is waiting for pro badges gives a shit that you signed till 2027.
Yeah.
They give a shit that shit's in July. We're rounding out the mid-January here. People don't know, and you're already releasing tickets. Like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and quick response that the Emerald City has surpassed San Diego, and I think there's look, either you adapt and grow, or you're gone. And we start off the show with adapt and grow, and you're gone. On to the next story, and this one actually is the glimmer of hope because we've all said this, and there's smiles on our faces when we saw this. It's like Spider-Man villains, Spider-Man number 4. We have a little point of who the villains are as you look at some of them, as reported by another news source, is not us and everything. Marvel Scooper, the Beyond reporter, claims that Spider-Man 4 will not feature the Sony Sinister Six. I'm sorry, the Sinister. It wasn't not Sony Sinister Six, but the Sinister Six characters were removed after rewrites of the script got underway. And if that's the case, it seemingly confirms the end of Sony's long-time plans to bring the Sinister Six to screen. But now here's the part where it gets interesting. It also suggests that the new villain for the film could be Mephisto, with Ghost Rider to serve as a supporting hero to the Wallcrawler in the same way that Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Happy Hogan / Nick Fury did in previous MCU films. I hope that this is like just not a rumor and this happens because that starts getting us into the Midnight Suns and some of the other lore with some of the Marvel characters that we've only seen through like Moon Knight or the Werewolf by Night. It would be kind of cool to see Ghost Rider and Mephisto. What do you guys think, man?
As long as it's not Nicolas Cage, I am fine.
They're probably going to be Nicolas Cage.
I just worry about who is at the creative helm when Mephisto and Ghost Rider are reintroduced or introduced.
I think that's Marvel now because I know that the Sony people have shined away, and Spider-Man, the Spider-Man franchise has been heavily Marvel handed. So I've got to think that they're pushing that initiative.
Well, Marvel for sure, but like who is the director? Who is the writer? Like that's going to be important. Yeah, see, like because you could
Christopher Nolan.
Mephisto could be your all-time villain here, so don't screw it up.
Yeah.
And people are excited to see Ghost Rider, and it better be Keanu Reeves if you're doing, the right Ghost Rider. So
Mephisto is the same way of Thanos. Like you can't waste that character. You've already wasted Kang, and you can't waste Mephisto. You have to make that character. Because he's going to push all the narratives for the Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Blade, all these other characters you'll see. That's a catalyst for them, man.
Well, what are they doing with Null? Like they introduced him at the end of this Venom movie, and Venom's done.
I think that whole universe is dead, brother. I think
why
he'll be a brand new Null. Yeah.
Why waste the character?
Because they were like this. Come on, this one's going to work. Come on, it's going to make some money.
They basically were like. They're like, hey, DC, we love how you introduced Superman, and then fuck you, so check out what we're doing. And then they did that with Nolan. So it's all just look, Brad, it's all just trying to one-up each other in the industry, okay?
Yeah.
You should know this by now. You did a bad move. We're doing an even worse move. I hope you enjoy that shit.
Yeah. Please, if there's two characters that you got to do well, it's these two.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm begging you. Do not introduce these characters unless they're executed well. And don't make it a side character. I still have my hopes that Ghost Rider makes an appearance at the end of this Daredevil Born Again series. I'm hoping.
Look,
so
I want to see he's one of my favorite characters. I'd love to see, I want to see the whole Midnight Sun start pushing its way through because that is level, like you got your street level characters. That's one too. So let's hope that happens. From there, we move on to we gotta end the show with some stuff.
Oh, God,
I love the Captain America mushroom bucket. I mean that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, more and more cat popcorn buckets. That is right. There is a sliver of all this stuff coming out. AMC theaters will sell a collapsible Shield popcorn bucket. I don't know if a collapsible popcorn bucket is a smart thing.
I might get this.
Popcorn.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I might get this one for the Shield because I'm gonna be sitting at home watching my movies with a cap shield eating popcorn.
You can also sled with it. So.
Yeah.
Says the blue bucket is designed with the iconic shield and can be pushed down and reopened for use. AMC will also offer a collectible cup.
You have to hold it like this.
So they're basically trying to get you to buy shit to go see a movie that's you're gonna walk out in 30 minutes.
Oh well, let's put it. If you got a collapsible shield and everything, you can't because you can't move up too fast with that popcorn.
I at least have to get through this popcorn shit.
Yeah, they're probably making that popcorn scalding hot so you can't move. So, but they're not the only ones. Not just AMC. Oh no. We move on to Cinemark, where Cinemark has a whole sliver of stuff that they've got out there right now. Cinemark Captain America popcorn bucket is rolling out exclusive buckets for the film release. Here's what fans can grab. They can get themselves a Shield popcorn bucket that they could fill for $30. Damn, that's a lot of money for Phil bucket. This tub will also feature Sam Wilson's shield design with wings that include a shield cup attached to the larger drink. You've got a Red Hulk popcorn tub for $30. Bust of the Red Hulk holding the XL popcorn. And then you've got we've seen this before because we did this a couple of weeks ago, the helmet popcorn can, which you could put all over your face and popcorn on it for $25. But you look at that and you're saying, okay, that's that looks okay. But we're not done. We're not done. They didn't stop all the popcorn buckets. The last on our list is our buddies over at Regal. And Regal Captain America popcorn bucket. And they were offered 2 popcorn buckets according to his Instagram.
I don't even want this on the
January
screen. This
17th.
is dumb.
One chart with Captain America's shield featuring a picnic shield design and wings to represent Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie. The other one is the Red Hulk bust that you can actually store popcorn in his back.
Look how dumb this looks.
And you can actually scoop it from there. So, gentlemen, the question is that which one of the 4 of us is we'll pick an individual bucket that we all have to decide a bucket.
Well, see, here's the thing: is like so that Hulk is actually made of paper mache, and the paper was wait, hold on, because there's some exclusive shit to this. Is the paper mache is all of the rewrites of the movie were paper shredded and created this popcorn bucket. So if you want to eat in the 15 attempts to make this movie good. You know what's going to be funny is when we watch it, we all walk out and we're like, oh, that was actually pretty good. Because we've talked so much trash about it that it's like we are thinking Madam Web material. And we're actually going to walk out and go like, wasn't so bad. So
it was like,
I'm looking forward to it being like, oh, okay. It was good.
Harrison Ford was good. Craven and way better than Morbius. Yeah, all right. It's just a win-win for us.
Is it better? Yes. Is it good? No. So
the low expectations are
it's
the one with the wings. You're gonna walking around with that. You're gonna poke people's eyes out behind you and to the sides every turn.
Look, the one thing I'll say about these popcorn buckets, we saw the War over him with the giant fist that you can pass across the eye. Look, they're just gonna keep doing bigger. Pretty much, it's gonna be like an AMC seat. It'll be like a Star Trek captain's chair. And it'll be like you can sit in it and you can put popcorn. Like they're just gonna keep building bigger and bigger and bigger. And guess what? As long as you're going to the theaters, as long as you're picking up those items, you're keeping those movie theaters going. Let all the craziness go. That being said, gentlemen, you know what that is? That's the end of SKN News.
Mr. Storm, well done again. Thank you, sir. Capturing all the most important things around the world, including Captain America popcorn buckets that I know everyone was excited to hear about.
Yeah.
Just give me a Fantastic Car when that movie comes out, and I can separate peanut M&Ms and popcorn in the seats. Like, that's all I'm asking for. Gentlemen, what a fine show. We appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. And as again, if you haven't, please subscribe, like, follow the channel. It only helps us grow, and comment. But we always appreciate you all, whether or not you're watching live here and jumping in the chat, or you're watching us at a later time. But what's on the docket? What do we have going on? Where's the crew going to be? I know we got some updates going on for this week.
We do, sir.
What are the happenings?
Our upcoming events is popping up. We've got the Toy Depot geeking out tomorrow in the city of La Mirada. Myself and Mr. Chet will be there, big game hunting for grails and everything else like that. So, you know, that's the toy
Yes,
broker.
sir.
I'll have to be. We're in the middle of this situation. We've already started doing some pre-sales and got some vendors lined up that we're already looking for. So we've already put our bids in early. But that's tomorrow, Saturday the 18th of January. If you're actually watching this at a later time and you missed it. There on Sunday the 19th is Nerds and Hip Hop. We went last month. Great event there, family friendly event. If you have a chance and you're out in Moreno Valley at the Moreno Valley Mall, stop in to see them. There's got a lot of great vendors. They also have comic related cars. There's also cosplay contest and also card games and everything else. So if you're there, and again, it's an event that they make it family friendly. So from 8 to 80, you can go to this event. And then from there, because it's the best 1/12th version of a car on the market right now, our buddies at Odd Frog, the Bandito pre-order. If you haven't purchased this car, let me tell you something. First of all, it's $185 with continental U.S. shipping. You should definitely be purchasing it out. If you can't find it over at Nordzoic, you can't find it over at Hella Dope Toys, well, guess what? You can go to oddfrogentertainment.com, place your order there. They are not taking your money at this point. There's an option that says pay later. And when they actually get this car into production, that's when they will charge you. So it's not something that you got to drop $185 in, but it is a toy photographer's dream. If you are like us and we have the Ramen Racer, you need something to compete with the Ramen Racer. The Bandito from Odd Frog Entertainment most definitely does.
Yeah. Also, just a quick plug on this too. I mean, Mr. Storm and I were on with the Odd Frog group and as well as a bunch of other creators last Sunday, I believe it was, or the previous Sunday. Yeah, Sunday before last. There's a lot of cool shit happening with Bandito in terms of just the universe and toys and things that are coming out. So you really want to be part of this, because if you get in on the Bandito right now for pre-order, it does come with pink slips, which I believe they said will not happen after pre-order. So I will have 6 of them. So if you didn't get one, I will probably have 6 of them, but I need them for something. So anyways, this is a great car. It is a toy photographer's dream car. And I'm excited. This is fantastic. So.
And again, we'll be at Geeking Out tomorrow. So anybody that we've insulted in the comic book realm and everything, well, don't think that, Chet and I are small guys. You probably don't want to run up on us. So you might want to think about that.
Have fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, check out all the content here on Shadow Nose Network, including every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. The Toybox Chronicles featuring Mr. Storm, Chet Maddox. We also got Richard from Crooked Smile Collectibles and a bunch of other series of guests. If you haven't checked that out for all your toy and collectibles needs, and plus a variety of other stuff, including coming soon. We've had a bit of a break on the professional wrestling content, but with WrestleMania around the corner, look forward to seeing some more content. So for you wrestling fans, more to come. Well, for Chet Maddox, Mr. Storm, Dr. Brentley, I'm Murad. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Peace.
Toys versus
gamers. I'm here with the man, the owner.
Tony at Toys vs. Games.
versus
Games.
Oh.